this guy and be like, oh, what is this schmuck doing here? I want to hear from him only. This guy needs to sit down.
By the way, Miss Amy was correct. It is an outside effort because you can't expect the government to straighten itself out. So you need an outside, of course.
Yeah, for sure. So it's great to be with all of y'all. Love coming to communities like Saluda. We were in Charleston last night for technically a business event, but they had during campaign season they'll have some gubernatorial candidates, congressional candidates, and they invited Rom to come out. So we were all the way in Charleston this time yesterday, and we had a great turnout. Lots of people were super motivated by Rom and his message, and we're going to learn a lot more about that tonight. But before we get started, I'll just quickly introduce the two of us. My name is Kendall. I'm the political director for DogeSC. I don't live too far away from here at all. I live in Lexington. I was born in Greenville, but raised in Aiken in horse country. Graduated from USC Aiken in 2019. After I graduated, I had a great opportunity to go work on the Trump 2020 campaign as a field staffer, which was a lot of work. And unfortunately, I was there in Georgia and Atlanta when we had our election integrity issues. So I saw all that up close and was really inspired to get involved with election integrity after that. And in 2022, I was a part of the inaugural effort by the Republican Party, which was too late, but that's a different conversation for another day. So I got to be the Deputy Director for Election Integrity for the Georgia GOP in the 2022 cycle. And then last year, I had the honor of also working for the Trump campaign, doing election integrity as the State Director there. And it was awesome to be on the winning side of things. And I'm sure you all know there's a lot that goes into election integrity. You've got your poll watchers, poll workers, you got to memorize all the laws, the regulations, the rules surrounding all of it. And then in Georgia, you got 19 days of early voting, and then a month before that, absentee ballots start getting mailed out, and they start getting put in the mail. And then even after everybody else is celebrating, after the TV tells you that you won, we still have to make sure that all the rules are followed, the ballots are counted correctly, you've got your military ballots coming in. So it was a lot. And after I got done with that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. A lot of my friends work in the Trump administration in DC, and I thought that might be a good option for me. But there was something telling me that I needed to come back home because I had been gone for about 4 or 5 years after I graduated. And it was God telling me, come back home because you're needed here. And I was jobless for a couple of months. I was just doing random day-to-day door knocking jobs and things like that, just trying to get by. And lo and behold, a friend of mine who was in my position before, he's now working for Congressman Wilson now, but he called me up and he said, hey, I'm working for this group called Doge South Carolina, and we need regional directors. Are you interested? And I was like, well, let me look more into it first. And I did, and I read through our platform and watched Rom's videos on YouTube, and I was sold. And you kind of get sold whenever you hear the name Doge anyways, because of the federal effort, like what Elon has going on, or did have going on, up in DC. And so now here we are, and I'll let Justin introduce himself and tell you guys a little bit about him, and then we'll get more into the program.
So yeah, I'm Justin Lane from Lawrence County. Y'all ever heard of Lawrence?
Yeah.
Right down 39.
Yeah.
I got stuck there on the way here, so I was a little late. By the way, who made that chili? Was it you?
Thank you.
Man, hey, all I gotta say is I'm glad my mom ain't here. That's some slap your mom with chili. So yeah, thank you, brother. And thank y'all for y'all service. We got any other veterans? Any other veterans? Just y'all? Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm on Lawrence County Council. I live in Joanna. If y'all have heard of Joanna, yeah. So I'm precinct president there. Often EC because our EC doesn't show up. But yeah, so I'm involved with the county party there. It was really interesting. I don't really have the accolades of my superior here.
I've got a few years on it.
This guy got Trump in office, so you can thank him for that. But it's really interesting. I ran for office last year in Lawrence, and we challenged an incumbent. It was an incumbent Republican. He had a pretty bad voting record, and we shared the council seat with Clinton, and he lives around PC, Presbyterian College, and that's often the elite side of town, you know. So us out in Joanna, you know, this prestigious guy around PC is not really representing us too well. So I took it upon myself. I waited to the last minute and made sure no one else was running before I jumped in there. I didn't want to be the third guy. But it's a long story. We don't need to get into that. But it's amazing how it all happened. I didn't get Trump in office, but I did. I got a call from the guy he was talking about. I called him. I had worked with him before, and I worked my butt off. And so when that upstate spot vacated or was there, he called me up, and it was a blessing how it all panned out. I was honestly jobless for a couple months as well. I feel like I'm missing something. Probably am, but it'll probably come back. So yeah.
Aren't you you're a Clinton High School football fan or something like that?
Yeah, it's funny. I realized on the way here, you guys are playing Clinton tomorrow in football, so I was going to prepare you guys, make sure y'all get ready to lose tomorrow. Make sure
I better win that straw poll we were talking about.
So y'all got it in. You got it cut out for you tomorrow night. All right, I just want y'all to know. That's all I got. So we'll something will come to me, I'm sure. I forgot it, but happy to be here,
That's
y'all.
not supposed to happen until you're our age.
Your age or 29, like me, I don't know. But all right, well, thanks for giving us a couple minutes for us to introduce ourselves. It's a great pleasure to be here. So let's go ahead and we'll dive into the brass tacks of kind of what is DogeSC, why was DogeSC founded, and then what are we doing to solve these problems that we have. So as we said at the top, technically Doge South Carolina is a political PAC. But you can kind of think of us as kind of a political PAC and maybe even like a think tank and a grassroots movement all merged together. I'll go into kind of our belief system so that way when we go into these problems, when we talk about the solutions, you'll have a better understanding of how we have got to those solutions. So first of all, our rights come from God, not government. The government must always be weak and the citizen always has to be strong. And what we have today, unfortunately, is we have an all-powerful state. Meanwhile, the citizens are weak and poor. I'll get into a little bit more about that later on. But second, our second belief is that we're all made in the image of God. God made us in His image. We're all children of God, and therefore we have to reject identity politics and manufacture. People are more than welcome to disagree with us. If you guys disagree with anything we say tonight, we want to hear about it. That's one thing that Ron is really big on. It's crazy because he's the founder of this PAC, and he's a really, really successful business guy who was in the private sector, and now all of a sudden he's leading this movement in the state of South Carolina, where he's got everybody from the Speaker of the House calling him up, Majority Leader in the Senate, Shane Massey, he's got the Freedom Caucus calling him up, and just all these various people. And then meanwhile, we get on our grassroots calls, or last night we were in Charleston, and he just says, my email address is ronready@gmail.com, you guys can reach out to me. But he always wants to hear dissent, or if you agree with him, we like to hear that as well too. Suppressing dissent through personal attacks corrodes the foundations of our constitutional republic. America is a place founded on free speech. So no matter if you agree or disagree with us, we want to hear about it, and we're going to promote that. And then last but not least, this is maybe my favorite belief here, and that's when in doubt, always take the path of highest integrity and transparency. We're going to talk about two specific bills that we have put out in the public tonight. One of them is judicial reform, specifically with JMSC. The other one is an Equal Parenting Act. Both of those bills are posted on our website for everybody to read. We've got a one-pager put together, so if you don't want to take, if you're not a big reader or you don't want to look at all the legal jargon or whatever, you can read the one-pager, or if you're kind of a nerd like me and you want to actually read the black and white and all the text, that'll be on there as well. So those are kind of our core beliefs. Now let's get into the unfortunate part, and that is the problems. And I already touched on some of them, right? For one thing, again, we're the highest income tax red state in the entire country. It's funny, we had Gavin Newsom come here not too long ago. He's probably going to be announcing that he's going to run for president on the Democratic side. So he's doing his rounds. And you see the state party and all these Republican politicians who, are just tearing him a new one and blah, blah, blah. But then again, it's like, hey guys, we pay the highest taxes compared to any, supermajority red state. We also have an oversized and bloated government, specifically on the agency level. We have 103 state agencies, and with that, earlier this year it was 84,000 regulations, but now, with the way that they move, and the amount of lawyers and bureaucrats that they have, that's probably anywhere between that number and 90,000 if I had to guess. I mean, just who knows, it's probably changing week to week, month to month. Speaking of Gavin Newsom in California, that is 1.8 times more on a per capita basis than the state of California. So again, people like to talk about California being California and, all the liberals live there and we're this awesome, Republican state. But meanwhile, we have more regulation here than California does, technically. Let's see here. So yeah, all that kind of comes back to, the citizen is weak and poor while the government is rich and powerful. The other negative to this is because the government has grown so much, inside of all of these various agencies that we have, they're armed to the teeth with lawyers and bureaucrats, and basically unlimited money too. So imagine, just picture yourself in any particular situation where you've got to deal with one of these agencies, or they come after you, whether it's a small business thing, or if you go into family court or something like that. Depending on who you're getting involved with, like for instance, Ram, our founder, I won't get into all the story. Long story short, he lives on Isle of Palms. He lives on the beach. He has a really nice big house down there, and the state was not controlling the dunes and taking care of them like they should have. And a few years ago, a hurricane washed up, did a lot of damage, and so he was like, I'm going to do something about it. It's my private property. So he built a seawall. And lo and behold, the Department of Environmental Services came out and they put a notice on the seawall demanding that he had to take it down, and they fined him close to $300,000 for it as well. Ron is financially blessed, thankfully for him, but he had to go to court, state administrative court, and that's whenever this whole DogeSC idea kind of clicked for him, because he thought to himself, wait a second, I'm this guy who's really blessed and I have the financial resources to pay for some big top lawyer that can defend me in court. Maybe I can even win this thing because I can afford to pay for a great attorney. But what about the guy who is single and he's making $45,000 a year and he's trying to start his new business? I know, right? Yeah, I need to raise my hand to that too. I'm kind of talking about myself when I say that. But what happens whenever the whole government is turned inward on them, or the small business owner, or again, if you're in family court or something like that? And then so that was kind of his motivating factor for starting DogeSC. I will say, speaking of that case, Ram actually fired his attorney after the first day and decided to represent himself in state administrative court and defended himself. And he got a ruling back a couple of weeks ago, finally, after almost, I think, 4, 5, 6 months of waiting and waiting. That they don't have to play by the same rules like everybody else does. And then they announced that he didn't have to pay the fine, so kind of a victory there, but then they did say they still wanted the seawall to be taken down. He's still gonna fight it, but then earlier this week they also announced that they like vacated the ruling and I don't know, we don't know what's going on with it. But the point is, getting back to why he founded it, what are you supposed to do when the government turns in on you? So that's why he started DogeSC. I think you had a question? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were raising your hand. By the way, we can kind of turn this into more of a conversational type piece, so if you guys have any questions or any comments while we're speaking, y'all can, raise your hand or just shout out loud.
Especially if you say something that don't make sense.
Yeah, for sure, yeah, exactly.
How do you identify funds that you can cut in South Carolina?
That's a good question. She asked, how can we identify funds to be cut in South Carolina? So one of those, and this kind of gets into our solutions part of the program, so glad you asked. One of the things that we are doing that Ron is developing, so I should say, obviously Ron Reddy's our founder, he's the CEO of this whole operation. His COO is named Matt Nolan. He's a former Marine, a Dartmouth graduate, and he worked in Governor Youngkin's administration in Virginia. And a big part of what he did was policy and AI. And so we're lucky enough to have him. He lives here now and he's working for us. And he's developing AI tools for us to use. For one, where I'm just trying not to butcher this. So let's say you have let's say we take Department of Transportation for an example, because that's one of the worst agencies where it's just bloated with, rife with waste, fraud, abuse, over-regulation. If we take our tool and we plug it into some random statute, which that's what the state legislature passes, it looks at all the regulations, which is what the bureaucrats write up, and essentially those are laws that we all have to follow, even though our representatives never passed them into office. And now we have 84,000 plus of them. But if we plug that tool into a statute, it looks at all of the regulations associated on that statute. And it can tell whether they're legal, whether they're misguided, and I'm not a tech guy, so I can't explain it nearly as well as Matt could. But essentially it'll highlight any regulation that it identifies as being problematic or shouldn't be there, or it's just downright illegal.
Right.
So the idea is that we can plug a tool like that into all of the different agencies and look at all the different regulations associated with those statutes. And it's not, we're not just gonna plug it in and then it tells us, get rid of this, and we're just gonna pick a big X over it and get rid of them. We'll have a team of humans to look through it all and be able to verify that, hey, this isn't illegal, it shouldn't be there.
You have to justify every cut you make.
Exactly.
Can I ask a piggyback question?
1 second, because I'm going to get to the financial aspect. So there's another tool that's being developed, a forensic audit tool, where essentially we can kind of do the same thing. We can track where the money's coming in and where it's going out. So when it's going out, what special interest groups is it going to? Things like that. And we'll be able to highlight those and make it public, and then be able to create a public pressure campaign to get our legislators to do something about it. And that goes back to kind of the whole transparency thing too. Anything that we find, we will be posting on social media, we'll be posting about it on our website, so make sure you're following us there.
Right.
But we could do all this stuff ourselves, but if we don't have people getting involved with what we're doing and raising awareness around these things, then we might make a little bit of progress, but you think that these people are going to listen to us? Just because we're DogeSC, we're just private citizens at the end of the day. We're not a political entity, but we're not a part of the state government.
Seeing that South Carolina has adopted the national Doge wording or title, would it not be possible to take the federal, I'm not into AI, but would it be possible to take the federal programs that they have already created and tweak them instead of rebuilding the wheel in every state? That's a lot of time and money that if you could just borrow from the federal,
Right, well, they actually created a new, well, I guess we could call it a cohort of different states that are wanting to do this. And they've already met, down in Charleston or somewhere, they met. They brought in, someone from the Heritage Foundation and, maybe someone from Florida, from the DeSantis' office, but,
Yes.
there was a couple of people there.
We have like Virginia, Texas, Florida, maybe Ohio. We have an article on our website about it.
okay,
And so what I was gonna tell you, like, this is gonna be better than the federal Doge for multiple reasons. One, of course, being it's not a part of the government, right?
Mhm.
So it's gonna be better than the federal Doge. I'm not sure if the bridge is really connected between Ron and, Elon Musk or whoever. So I don't know if that would be a hard ask to get our hands on that stuff. But Ron is wanting to invest his own money so that it's his product and it's not.
he's wanting to maintain control.
In a way, because yes ma'am, he wants to be able to, control it, use it when he wants to, and, not belong to somebody in Washington.
I understand that, but going back to, creating the programs and keying them down to each state, you go and you call Trump, this is just the way I feel like Trump is. You call him and tell him you got 15 states interested, he's gonna give you the data. He's gonna give you the information, and instead of just recreating this program from scratch, that's time and money to me.
No, you're exactly right. One thing will be, once these tools are officially developed, created, tested, and proven, we will be able to license these out to other states, and then even to ideally, municipalities, cities, counties in our own state where these things can be used. And it'll be, I'm not a decision maker, but it would be at a low cost. And then,
I understand, but you're still talking time and money.
well, part of the big problem that we have at the federal level with Doge was it was a great idea. They were able to highlight a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse, but Congress never codified any of that stuff, and so it's technically not federal law. So whatever they were able to do earlier this year, Congress can just go back and appropriate more funds and.
I'm just talking about the programming standpoint. Regardless of that, you guys, Elon, bless his heart, 2 seconds he's got to change for the states. 2 seconds he's got to change for the municipalities, the local governments. And if this country is truly united and working under one president with the same vision, you're gonna share data before you're gonna see anyone under you struggle to try to get things wrong.
Well, that's kind of what that conference that he was talking about with all the different representatives from different states. That was kind of the beginning of that process starting right there.
Wonderful.
So yeah, that's a great question, and you're right. The last thing that we want to do is spend even more time, money. But again, keep in mind that all of this, what we're here, what we get paid to do, everybody on our team, it's all funded by ROM. There's no, I should have said this at the beginning, we don't take any big dollar donations. Ron likes to say that his wife says that he can be bought for more than $1,000. So we only accept donations up to like $999.99. But I think the latest total, that's 2% of our total funding. The rest of it is self-funded.
He said less than 2 last night.
Did he say? Okay, there we go.
Less than 2% of our funding.
So this is strictly Rom and his vision, but also, if people feel obligated, they want to chip in. I always tell, people when I talk to them on the phone, they'll say, oh, can I make a donation? Or, and I'll say, God bless you. If you want to, you can go on our website and do it. I'd rather have you be a part of our team and support our initiatives and support our candidates, which I'll get into next, because that's really what's going to make the difference. Again, if people want to donate, that's great, but what we really need is boots on the ground. We need your voice, because again, this is all about bringing power and money back to the citizen and taking it away from the government. People's small dollar donations are great, but that's not really what's going to get us over the finish line. And really, this is just the start. this was founded, I think either late last year or first thing this year. And I started on April 1st, he started May 1st. We just brought on somebody for the Low Country, a regional rep down there. I mentioned Matt before. So this is kind of like, you guys are, this is only the second or third time that I've been able to speak to anybody like this. So you guys are on the bottom floor of this thing, just like we are. But Justin, do you have anything else to add before we move on?
I will, because, excuse me, talking about the donations, Ron told us that someone tried to send him a $5,000 check, and he sent it right back to him. And that was a couple of weeks ago. And before that, someone sent, a couple thousand, and he sent it right back to him. Which kind of plays into the fact that he can't be bought, right? And a lot of times with these PACs and these political special interest groups, they're often funded by a wealthy person or multiple wealthy people, and what they say goes. So that's not the case with this, and that's what that's why I love this. So yeah, that's what I
will say too, we actually talked about this last night as well, we have previously. We're gonna be 100% transparent about any money that's coming in. We're gonna post on our website, either probably a monthly summary of money taken in and where it's been used and things like that. Again, that's kind of one of our core founding beliefs is maximum transparency with everything that we do. Yes, ma'am.
What about money saved within the government when this all rolls? Where is that going?
It's getting put out there.
Well,
Website,
Well, where is
socials.
it being housed?
So with money that we are able to identify, hopefully down the line we can figure out restructuring our tax issue that we have here. You look, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, none of those states pay income taxes.
Right.
Meanwhile, again, not to belabor the point, but we pay the highest for any Republican state. Rom's idea is if you get, if we have a surplus of money, that's our money to begin with, it's coming out of our paychecks. He believes that that money needs to go into a citizen trust fund, and on 4th of July each year, and on Jesus' birthday, on Christmas, that citizens get a reimbursement back, because at the end of the day, it's our money. But in terms of being able to highlight, identify where all the waste and fraud is, we've got to have this tool into action. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I believe that these AI tools should be ready to be rolled out, if not by the end of this year, then sometime early next year. Yes?
The regulation tool, there was already a test run on
Yeah.
the DOT. He was talking about the statutes versus the laws and using the analytics tool to compare those. They already ran a test on DOT, and 40%.
There's like a 41%
mismatch in regulation and what's passed by the bureaucracy versus what's passed by the legislature. So a 41% mismatch. That's pretty impressive that they managed to do that over these years.
So you take a 41%.
Also, when you're looking at any type of agency, are they looking at agencies that are top heavy?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, pretty much they're all top heavy. I mean, because they're all filled with bureaucrats.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, just because somebody works in the government or works for an agency, that doesn't make them a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a part of a bad system that needs reform, right? So I don't want to, if anybody knows anybody that works in the state government or for an agency, not personally attacking them one bit. They're just, again, Rom says, what does he say? He says the same thing about a lot of our representatives at the state level. They're not necessarily bad people. I mean, we've seen, unfortunately, there are some bad people who are going through some stuff right now. But the majority of these people, of our leaders, are not bad people. They're just part of a bad system, and a bad system corrupts all, right? So yeah, yes, ma'am.
What's been the pushback from the other side?
Well, what's funny is with South Carolina being a Republican-heavy state, we're not even really getting a lot of pushback on the left. I mean, I haven't
much about mainstream media and their coverage.
Not even
Yeah.
the left, I mean, what about the Republicans, the bureaucrats that support the DOT and
We did have,
people are gonna lose jobs, even Republican people, I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah, are you talking about losing jobs from the cuts and everything?
from the cuts.
Yeah, well, it's funny because Rom says, you know, he's not trying to terminate
It
people.
needs to happen.
He's wanting to repurpose these workers from the public sector to the private sector.
There's a program that Ron DeSantis and his wife, which Ron was actually really good friends with Governor DeSantis and Casey. And Casey's parents actually live in Aiken, where I grew up. So we have DeSantis family in South Carolina. So they chat pretty often. They have a program, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Something to do with hope. Hope something. I wrote it down, but I left my notebook at home. But they had that same exact model in Florida, where they gutted the bureaucracy, what I like to call the fourth branch of government, the agency state. They gutted that, but then they were able to put people who lost their jobs, and these bureaucrats who lost their jobs, but they were able to either get them into school, so that way they could go back and get an education and find a job elsewhere, or they were able to just use the skills that they had with their jobs inside these bureaucracies and transfer them into the private sector, which is good for all of us because it saves us money. We're not paying their salaries. It's business being generated on the outside. So it's a win-win for all. That's something that we've talked about doing here, but that's kind of in the early stages. But yeah, just to belabor that point again, it's not, we don't want to see good people get hurt by losing jobs. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in this room know somebody that has been affected by a job loss, or you yourself have been affected by a job loss, and nobody wants to go through that. So again, we want to be able to repurpose some of these, because a lot of these people are really talented and really smart. They just happen to work in a bloated system that we're all paying for, and it's making us all poor and weak. So we just need to find a better role for them on the outside.
Is it a perpetual program that keeps going, or 5 years down the road they're gonna say, okay, we're done with you guys?
That Florida program
Yeah.
that they're doing,
I know it's a DeSantis initiative, so I don't know whoever's the next governor or whoever comes into the next administration there, whether they would keep it up. So that's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head though. But ideally it would be, right?
Well, you could say, well, we got all this accomplished, we got all this done, that program's no longer needed, it could be, or
Right.
it needs to be
Right.
repurposed for somewhere else or whatever,
Right.
So, So then, your boss is then, he's funding this program then?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Are we good on time?
About 10 more minutes.
Okay, let's get into the Palmetto Revolutionaries, and then I'll quickly touch on the two bills that we have, and then with the 30 seconds that we have left, tell you guys how you can get involved. So, I've talked a lot about AI tools and, rooting out the waste, fraud, and abuse, but what about our representation on the ground here? So if you go on our website, and which is DogeSC.com, or you can just go to PalmettoRevolution.com. At the very top, there's a Palmetto Revolution tab. If you click on that tab and you go down to Covenant 250, Palmetto Revolution Covenant 250 is the name of our initiative. DogeSC is the umbrella, but the Palmetto Revolution is what we are enacting. That's our vision and our platform. So if you go on there, on these handouts that we gave y'all, we got a little bit about it, but it's so much more on the website.
You can scan the QR code on your card too.
Yes, absolutely.
Just did it.
There we go. I could get up here and talk more and more about the platform and all that, but I am not a sitting member of the state legislature, so what power do I really have? So what we need to do is to get Palmetto Revolutionaries into office. So what we've done is, and Miss Amy posted the pledge that we have, that we're sending around on the Facebook page, so you guys can take a look at that. But it's our platform condensed down to a one-pager, and we're getting that out to every single incumbent. in the State House and the State Senate. We may have some, unfortunately, I won't get into the gubernatorial stuff, but every single sitting senator and House member, and then people that are also running for office, will have a chance to read this over, and then they can sign it if they believe in it. And then you go on our website, and you click on the Who is a Palmetto Revolutionary tab, you will see a list of everybody who has signed that pledge, and those are the people that we, as DogeSC, are going to be supporting. We got 3 columns on there. A revolutionary column, and then we have the bad column, which is going to be red. Those are people not supportive of the agenda. Those are people that we need to fight against. And then we have another column, our orange column, that we don't know yet. That'll be orange. Those are the people that we just haven't heard back from, and the goal is to get them into the green. Or, if they're not going to sign it, unfortunately, we'll put them in the red. But we will be amplifying that list of people. We just had somebody else get rolled out today. Do you remember who got announced today? Actually, it might be on here. I'll give you some examples of some candidates on here. Mike Berkhold, who's running for Comptroller General. Curtis Loftus, who's currently State Treasurer, running again. David Pascoe, who is running for Attorney General. Ellen Weaver, State Superintendent of Education. Let me see if there's anybody around here. We don't have, Joe White is actually a Palmetto Revolutionary. So that's that list. Please check that out and make sure you pay attention to that as those names come out. And then I'll have to kind of hit on somebody local in just a second.
Are any of our delegation, like Garrett and Massey and Cal Forest, have they signed up?
So, none of them have signed it yet. The only person that I can unfortunately say anything negative to this point about, though, is Majority Leader Massey.
You mentioned pushback.
Yes, speaking of pushback here, so we'll start to wrap this up here, because I know we've been up here for a while. We have 2 pieces of legislation. So on one hand, we're going to be supporting our Palmetto Revolutionary candidates. That's half of our program. The other half of our program is we're going to have 3 pieces of legislation. 2 of them we've already announced. The third one, stay tuned. I'll give you a hint. You drove on them over here. The first one is judicial reform, specifically JMSC reform. Does everybody know what the JMSC is in here? If you don't, I can quickly explain it.
Write that down, JMSC.
Yeah, Judicial Merit Selection Committee. Basically, the majority of our judges are picked by the legislature, and they're appointed and reappointed by the state legislature. Right now, the latest change that went into effect is, well, I should back up. The JMSC has 12 people total. Right now, the governor gets 4 appointees onto that commission. The state House has 4 appointees, and the Senate has 4. This panel or committee are the one that screen the candidates, and then they put them up for appointment. The legislature signs off on them, and then at the end of their term, they come back and then they get reappointed, or they don't get reappointed and the process starts over. The problem is that basically right now the legislature has almost all the say over who our judges are right now. And then you add in the fact that, no offense to any attorneys that may be in here, nothing wrong with that at all, but I think it's like 30 or 31 right now.
Lawyer legislators?
Yeah. There's a good amount of them that are confirming and then reappointing these judges. And then in their private lives, they get up and they practice in front of them. And if you don't think that there's a conflict of interest or there's some special rulings going on with that.
Special interest and a conflict of interest.
That's like tomorrow night. That's like letting Clinton pick the referees tomorrow night.
Yeah.
It's like letting the team pick the referee.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, and they're your neighbor, and, they go to church with you on Sunday.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but our bill is going to call for the governor, the executive branch, getting to appoint all 12 members to the JMSC. So now the governor actually has a say involved. then the legislature still confirms the judges and reappoints them. But it's really a constitutional issue. It's all about separation of powers, which we don't have. And then kind of getting back to the negative, unfortunately, Senator Massey, Majority Leader Massey, spoke out against this reform and said that he didn't think that it was needed. So, yeah, it's very unfortunate because he's my representative as well too, and I like him personally. You know, everywhere we go, the citizens say that this reform is much needed, and we have lawyer legislators, we have Freedom Caucus, we have.
Even with the word of the Trump era, transparency, he can say that?
He did.
Some turncoat money.
I will say,
I don't
he said
understand
he said that he, you know, in all fairness, he did say he was still open to talking about it more.
No, we didn't.
But initially, it was just last week actually, and the
That was
last
the
week he
only,
came out.
he didn't think it was necessary. That's the only
Yes.
statement.
Yeah. It's tough. I like Shane a lot personally, and he helped me out when I was younger. I did a little bit of work for him. But this is much needed reform, right? And so I would definitely not consider him one of the Palmetto revolutionaries at this point. He has some time, but yeah, not good right now. Really quickly, the second, or is there anything else you wanted to add that I missed?
Y'all call Shane Massey.
Yeah,
If you wanna get started, that's the way to start.
And I have a really easy way for you to contact Shane and Representative Forrest as well. But we'll talk about that after, because I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time. Really, do you want to talk about the Equal Parenting Act real quick?
So the way it's been, as y'all know with family court, when you have a custody situation and there's no sort of, you know, criminal activity, anything like that, that would sway the decision, it always starts with the mother getting the priority. So Rom, I think they've already done this in Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky is kind of ground zero. I will also say, a lot of time, and I was a child of divorced parents too, generally it does start with the mom, but it can also start with the parent who has the most change in their pockets as well, and who gets the most connected attorney. So
Yep.
there's that as well.
And yeah, we both have lived that. In more ways than one. But this would make it to where it starts at 50-50 as the baseline, which it's amazing that we were not already there. It's crazy. But yeah, that's what this would do. If you guys are familiar with guardian ad litems, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of those. I've had some personal experience with those, and unfortunately, they're supposed to be an advocate for the child in the situation because they have the two parents going back and forth. But unfortunately, it seems that it often turns into a money incentive kind of thing. And in my personal situation, our guardian ad litem, it wasn't me, the child, it was my brother's daughter. The other grandma had, you know, all this money and connections to these attorneys. The guardian ad litem that was appointed, there was a personal connection there. We had nothing we could do about that. By the grace of God, this bill would allow a party to contest the appointment of a guardian ad litem. Like whenever the one's appointed by the judge, it would allow the other party to contest that. So that's amazing to me. And I actually dealt with all this earlier this year, and here we are with legislation in front of us. And you're probably wondering, what does judicial and equal parenting have to do with Doge and fraud and abuse? Obviously, it started as a fraud and abuse kind of thing, as the federal Doge, you know, that kind of mission. But then Rom started going around the state and having people from around the state reaching out to him, telling their story. And when we both started earlier this year, it was overwhelming, the amount of people, family court, administrative court, mainly family court is what we heard the most. And, you know, it kind of transitioned from this Doge, you know, fraud and abuse, all of this, to a bigger umbrella of
Palmetto Revolution.
And so that's what, it's amazing. It really is amazing. So this is meant to serve as a muscle for the citizen. It's meant to serve as a tool, you know, you can go through with us to hold your people accountable. It's amazing that Ron heard all this feedback from everyone, and then here we are with legislation in front of us. And people have been talking about judicial reform for years, and we've never gotten it, whether that's because of the factions or whatever the reasons are. Within these 6 months, Rom has been able to get all of the different battling people at the same table, and here we are with a piece of legislation that they're all signing on to. Except for Shane Maxey, but yeah.
And I will say too, just one more quick thing about this Equal Parenting Act. It does start with the judge has to come into it 50-50, unless there is a preponderance of evidence, and that's how it's literally written in the bill, that there is abuse or something, horrific going on. Then obviously the judge steps in, and we don't want children being caught up in bad positions, being abused or anything like that. But yeah, we did a judicial focus group. And most of the people that were on it were people affected at the family court level. I didn't, I said, I grew up in a divorced household. That was 25 years ago. And, but I kept writing to our bosses and saying, and this is a real issue. And then Ron was hearing about it too. And Justin had never actually even mentioned his situation that he was talking about before. But because of being able to talk to real people, we were able to come up with that idea to get that bill. And so we got pretty broad support on it so far. Just like with the judicial reform bill, again, we have people from all sorts of different factions that are already said that they're going to co-sponsor that legislation. So yeah, please go on our website. We'll wrap it up here. Please go on our website, check it out, read more. We will be staying after. I've got business cards. You should have some business cards. We'll give you guys our contact information. Once to get you guys plugged in. Again, we have a lot going for us, but we're not going to be able to get any of this done if we don't have the power of the people behind us. And
So that's one thing you said you were going to share, kind of a boots on the ground, what we can start doing.
well, one thing is we need to get these bills. People need to find out about them. Just share the links online, follow us on social media. Next year, we're going to be doing a lot of organizing at the Capitol, which I talked to you about. So we're going to need people to go with our team up to Columbia and talk to our representatives, demonstrate at the Capitol. We have our Palmetto Revolutionaries that we need to support. We're going to be doing events. Fun things like that. We'll have a lot of fun while we do it too, but a lot of this stuff is really serious. Again, we have a big platform. We're growing really fast. We're gaining influence, but it's not going to matter if we don't have the people backing us and really being the tip of the spear. That's our hard ask for you guys. And I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. We'll be happy to stay and take questions and talk a little bit more after. But thank y'all so much for your time. Y'all were great. We appreciate